So memory cards. What should you know as a videographer? Coming right up. What's up, drone maniacs? Welcome back to Drone Logic for your drone and tech-related info from my point of view. So we're talking memory cards today, right? Now I remember a time not so long ago where they had several different formats out there. You know, you had your flash drives, flash cards, and Sony had their memory sticks out there. Where SD has basically won the format wars because that's the only thing you're gonna find out there on the market now, for various reasons. Now different companies though make SD cards, and it's important for you to know the company that you're getting the SD card from, because the brand, because all cars are not the same. Some cars are a lot more reliable than others, and for me, I like to go with my tried and true tool. I either go with the ScanDisk. ScanDisk is the originator of the SD format, or I go with the Samsung cards. These are my two tried and true cards that I go with. I've never had any issue with them, right? For it now, as far as memory cards go, they have different performances and different ratings, and it all depends upon what you need for you. Now, as far as memory cards go, I would have to say probably the most important information that people need to know, and that people probably don't know, is that there's a difference between the read and the write speed. They're not the same. The write speed is easy to see because it's right there on the packaging. You buy a memory card, it'll be right there on, advertised right there with the capacity. And it's advertised in megabytes a second. And today the standard is like between 90 and 100 megabytes a second. This is what you'll find: 90, 95 to 100 megabytes a second. And if you really want to go to extreme, I've seen 130 megabytes a second, and the highest that I've seen on the market today is 170. If you really need to read information from memory cards at a high speed, then you do have that option. Of course, they're more expensive too. Now, as a videographer though, I would have to say that write speed, though, the speed in which you write information to the card, is the most important thing. Now, there are several markings on a card that you can tell. It's not as obvious as the read speed, but the information is there. Now, this is what I call the CUVs of memory cards. Now, the original symbol, or the class symbol, is symbolized by a C. And again, I had this little crude type of drawing. If you see it, look at the memory card and you see that C symbol, right? You look for that C symbol, and it's basically in as far as the class symbol, there were originally 5 different ratings. You had class 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. All telling you the write speed in megabytes per second. So a class 2 card wrote at 2 megabytes a second. Class 4, 4 megabytes, on up into 10, which is 10 megabytes a second, right? Now, all cars today pretty much are class 10, and if you see anything less than class 10, don't bother. Really, you won't find anything on the market really, but if you happen to, why waste your time? Why bother? Now, the second symbol is the ultra high symbol, which is symbolized by a U. So if you look at your car, you'll see that little U symbol, and you'll either see a 1 or a 3 inside of U, and these are in multiples of 10, right? So a U1 is basically 10 megabytes, same thing as a class 10 card, and a U3 is 30 megabytes a second, right? Which is 3 times that. Now, the third symbol, which is the video symbol, and if you look on your memory card, you'll see the symbol, the little V, and this is my little crude drawing. You'll have V30, V60, or V90. Again, it's easily seen on a card. Now, the 30 is basically 30 megabytes a second. The V60 is 60 megabytes a second, and V90 is 90 megabytes a second. Now, what do all this mean as a videographer? Well, it all depends upon your resolution that you're recording in. Now, 1080p, if you do your video in 1080p, I believe transfer data at 3 megabytes per second. I've seen between 2 and 3. You know, if I'm wrong, correct me, but it's back and forth between there. So if you have a class 10 card that writes at 10 megabytes a second, well then you're fine. If you're doing, 1080p, you have no issue whatsoever. I mean, you might be able to even do 106, 120 frames per second, depending on how fast the data transfer rate with a class 10 card, right? Now, 2.7K, I believe, transfer at 7 megabytes. Again, I could be wrong on this. So if you have a class 10 card and you're recording at 2.7K, again, at 30 frames per second, you're fine. Now, 4K is a different beast, it's a different matter altogether, right? 4K transfer data at 12 megabytes a second, which means that if you have a regular, just old class 10 card, or card that writes at 10 megabytes a second, unfortunately, it's not going to be enough, right? Now, some of the problems that I've run into trying to record 4K with a card that only writes at 10 megabytes a second, you'll run into, it'll drop a frame rate here, you'll see skipping, and you also see a lot of discoloration in your background. You'll see toweling, you see white light lines and towelings all up and down the video, right? You'll see video blurring in and out. So this is the problem that you'll run into trying to record at 4K with a video memory card that's not fast enough. This video clip here is a perfect example of what happens if you try to record with a memory card that's not fast enough. Now, this was taken with a Phantom 4, and as you see the clip, you see the problems. You see tiling, frame rate dropping, you see distortions. You see, the video 1 minute is a second is clear. You look at the trees, next thing you know, they're fuzzy. Another good example of why it's so important to have the right memory card for your needs of whatever you're doing is in my original channel, Common Sense, Logic, and Reason. I did a video about Lee Circle, and this was back during the time when the whole Civil War era monuments were a big thing in the media, right? And I basically did a video on this, and I had some video of it, and if you watch that video, you'll see how the grass, it's in the grass, was switching back and forth between your 1 second is normal grass, right? And then the next second is all like just one blotch of green, almost like Lego grass, and it just kept flipping backwards and forward because the memory card that I was using, again, just a regular class 10 memory card, 10 megabytes a second, just wasn't fast enough to keep up. And that's an example of the discoloration that you're running into. Okay, now I had to find out the hard way because I was wondering, okay, well, why was it doing that? And I had to find out the hard way. And unfortunately for me, I've had to delete some good footage that I've taken that was just unusable because of the different issues that I ran into that I saw. And it's a good thing that I found out what I did so that I was able to correct that, right? And that's why I made this video, so to explain the difference between memory cards and that as a videographer, if you're going to record in 4K, you make sure you get a card that records fast enough so that you don't run into the same problem and have to delete good data, But anyway, y'all, this has been my drone logic for the day. I hope that somebody out there finds some value in this information. And as always, y'all, until next time.